Okay, hello everyone and welcome. My name is Jennifer Barish and I am here doing a Q&A session with our CEO and owner, Mr. Luke Bailey. We wanted to share some information with you about the school and some cool things that are coming up, all things Astrocollege. So first, I wanted to talk about Luke because he is somewhat new to the school, not brand new to the school, but based out of Australia. It comes with a different flavor, maybe a little bit different vision for the school. And so I wanted him to tell us all about it. Luke, take it away.
Thanks, Jen. It's been a bit of an interesting journey. Uh, the International Academy of Astrology, which was, I think, originally known as the Online Academy of Astrology, and then it changed names. But so we've had a few what would you call incarnations? Is that a nice way to put it? Over the years, and probably back in 2024, it must have been 2024 now. Yes, it would be. Um, I took over the school from the lovely Ina Stanley, who was the founder, and brought it up. And one of the reasons why I did that was because I am a firm believer that astrology needs to have, or people need to learn astrology authentically. That's really what it comes down to. Um, and also, if you're going to, practice as a professional astrologer, Jen, you really got to have qualifications. Might sound,
Sure.
a little bit crazy in some respects, but no, I mean, that takes me back to my original journey getting into astrology, which I'll share with everyone in just a minute. But literally, that's what we're doing. And when taking over the college, I've been working very hard at changing the way in which the courses are presented and accessed. Primarily, that's the difference, and we're still going through that. And 2026 is going to be a big year. I nearly have a bit of a chuckle and say, yes, it will be the Saturn return year of the school. So we're going through a big, restructure. Maybe it's growing up into the new age is what it could be the case, if there's such a thing as the new age, because I think the new age has been with us for a long time. But all right, so that's who we're at. So anything else you'd like to know about me, Jen?
Well, being based here in the U.S., the school was born in Northeast Ohio, and I live in Southeast Ohio, not too far from the physical location. Australia is a bit far away, and so a little bit different. As we're recording
Yes.
on both sides of the world, Neptune has just went into Aries, and so we both feel it in different ways. But from where I'm at, there's lots of snow, and from where you're at, there's lots of heat.
Yeah, well, I can think we're about 43 degrees, which I think on your scale is about 110 today, and
Oh
it
my gosh.
has been for days, and it looks like it's going to continue for days. So we're copping either end of I should say the weather gods are sort of throwing their own sort of funny scenarios at us. But look, you talk about being in Australia, and I think I should probably give a little bit of background as to how. So how did I come across, purchasing the International Academy of Astrology the way I did? And primarily it's because the person who was my educator, you could say going way back to when I was in the 1980s. So I'll give it a little bit of a background as to how
You're
I came.
dating yourself there, Luke,
Yeah, I know.
1980s.
It's one of those things. I know. I'm probably, I just have to deal with it. I'm a Capricorn. Let's just say that, ultimately the older I get, maybe I get, the wiser I get. Well, that's the
The
theory.
hope. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So primarily, look, going back to that, that's what I did. Instead of going to university, I was always expected to go to uni. So at school, I was good at mathematics. So I was good at schoolwork in general without having to try too hard. I was lucky in that respect. Probably what it didn't do for me was give me a great study ethic because things seemed to work out fairly easily for me. And then at the end of the day, that was probably not great in the long term. However, I've always been somebody who, if I'm interested in something, want to dive deep into it and find out. And I got into astrology because a friend of mine who was, well, I think I was about 16 at the time, and Rob, who, yeah, isn't since now, he's actually a professor at Newcastle University in Australia here, and we used to do some martial arts work together, and he went off and made his own ninjutsu school, so the original ninjas. But his mum had learned astrology, interestingly enough, from a gentleman who I found out years later that my father had taught how to do
Oh, wow.
astrology. So it was a very interesting serendipitous scenario. But Rob had this astrology chart and it was all hand drawn, and I've still got that original because he's given it to me. And it's literally, well, it's probably in the back room there somewhere at the moment in the filing cabinet. But what happened was he said to me, and he's an Aries, and I went, oh, well, what a crock. You know? And as a 16-year-old, not really knowing too much, just reading the old sun sign column, this is all garbage. And
Hmm.
I remember him saying to me, so, what happens when you get a headache? I said, I don't know, I'll put up with it. He said, well, what if it gets bad? I said, I don't know, maybe take a Panadol or a Nurofen or something like that. He goes, why do you do that? I said, well, because it helps with the headache. He said, well, obviously you've tried that before. And I went, yeah. And he goes, well, how do you know astrology doesn't work? Have you tried that? And he was being sort of all, what's the word for it?
Facetious, yeah.
Yeah, and philosophical about things as Rob
Uh-huh.
always is. And so I went, yeah, good point. So I had the lovely job of learning astrology by getting a photocopy of a blank chart, photocopy out of the ephemeris of my month of birth, photocopy out of the table of houses, and a book, and said, here, work it out. And that's how I learned astrology. So I was
Uh-huh.
literally self-taught, going through mathematically, working it all out. And what happened from there is then I started picking up books on how to interpret it, what it was about. Started reading books from Stephen Arroyo and all the stuff from Dane Rudhyar and bits and pieces and all that. So probably more the psychological astrology back then. And
Okay.
and what I found was that it sounds awful, but I found that I was reading what I believe to be a lot of opinions. So you had opinions of people. This is how I think things work. This is what I've found, which is great. And from a psychological analysis point of view, it's very great, very well written with archetypes and gives you an understanding. But it really wasn't what I understood astrology to be, which was to some degree predictive. It was about the timing of
Mm-hmm.
things, timing of events,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and I found as I did more and more by myself that I looked at harmonics, which is now sort of versioned out into vibrational astrology in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was very heavily involved in that because I believed that there was different frequencies that we tuned to, and so on and so on and so on. But what happened was it took me about back then. There was no internet. There was a phone on the wall that everyone used to have to share occasionally if you had one in your house,
Yeah.
and there was a newspaper, and pretty much that was how you got information out there. So people would put ads in, and I remember being around, oh, no, it must have been 1987, 88, something like that. I saw an ad in the local newspaper where I was living in Sydney they were having an open day at the Chiron School of Astrology, which was run by Chris Turner. So I decided to pop up this particular, I'm going to go up there and check it out. And I found what I would consider my calling in some way, because I knew straight away that learning and getting educated in astrology properly and having a qualification I believed in, because what I'd come across was and we have the same today, Jen, where you've got a lot of people out there professing to be astrologers, and
Sure.
they actually don't know what they're doing. Unfortunately, they anyone can. The problem is it wasn't regulated, and it still isn't. I'm not a real fan of regulations in general, but I also understand that regulating or having certification is probably the better way of putting it, and proof that you know what you're doing and being able to go through it was important to me. And I went, yes, I'm going to take
Mm-hmm.
my last 5 years of astrology I've been teaching myself and run it through a college and school and do it full time and see where it is. And so I literally went on a journey and got my qualifications with the Federation of Australian Astrologers over the next couple of
Okay.
years, and
Mm-hmm.
became a practitioner and all of that sort of thing. And I was a firm believer in needing to do that and going through those examinations and getting that certificate. That was done with Chris Turner. Now, how this all ties together is that Chris and Ina Stanley are very close friends, if not best friends, and they're both, getting
Hmm.
on in age, and around the time to retire. So it came about through a friend of mine who's also worked for the IAA in the past, Greg Clare, and Greg, who's a very good astrologer and also astronomer in a lot of respects. He's very much into the astronomy. He was the one who told me that the IA was up for sale, that it wasn't public knowledge, but mate, would I be like, want to have a look at it? And the rest is history, and here we are today. So that's sort of how it came about. But walking into it, there has been a very long journey, which is still progressing, in order to bring it all together and make it, I suppose, modernize. Modernize would.
And you've been in this role since what, early 2024.
I,
So
I, I,
it's been a little bit, and there have been some improvements.
yeah. Well, what we've done, just so that people know, and there is some confusion still at the moment, because when I took it over, there was and everyone around the world probably knows it as astrocollege.org. And what I've done is it had the URLs, so I decided I'm going to move it to a .com and away from the .org, because technically it was a non-for-profit in America, and now it's owned by by people, and we're trying to make it sort of more of uh,
A global,
a global structure, but it is owned out of
right?
Australia. So, and the interesting thing is, a lot of things couldn't just be transferred across into Australia.
Sure.
I can't run a US based company out of Australia. There's a lot of different things
Yeah,
that I
sure.
can't do. So we still work from what I would call, because a lot of the teachers are based in the US. There are some based in Australia. There is also some potentially, I'm talking to somebody at the moment to start up a new sort of Vedic Jyotish sort of arm. I'm also talking to a very good other astrologers. I won't go into detail because, yeah, it's an evolving beast. But look, the changes we've made, we've started a community, and it's still what I would call in a soft launch. We haven't officially launched the new Astro College, as it's sort of known, and people get confused. What are we? Who are we? And the answer to that is we're sort of both. And it was funny because I was talking to Kathy the other day, and I said, so how do we end up with International Academy of Astrology and we get Astro College? And she made me laugh. She goes, we couldn't find another URL. I
So,
went,
in some
okay.
ways, I
Yeah.
think of all of this as, to be an astrologer, and so many aspiring astrologers, myself included, who are babies in the field, and maybe people who have, been working at it for years and years. In some ways, we all have a dream, and we're looking at our chart and figuring out our strengths and weaknesses, and how can we do more of to get to that dream, or to fulfill what our chart says. And so I see this as just growing pains for you fulfilling your dream, your astrology dream that started probably very small and very different in the 80s and 90s to where it is today. And now it's like, oh, I've got this business thing and I've got to transfer it across the world. And how do I make this a
Yes,
more global perspective? Because we do have teachers who are all over the world,
we do.
and trying to just make a staff meeting to meet all the different time zones when someone's in Greece and someone's in Spain and someone's in South America and someone's in Australia. It's definitely scheduling not for the faint of heart.
No, it's
It's
not.
a big undertaking.
That's right. And so we tend to just record them, and some people watch them back later, as we have to do. But if you think about it from that context, Jen, that's sort of what we're doing. So let me give a little bit of background of what the vision has been. So when I took
Sure.
over the college, what I wanted, it's not about coming in and changing everything up. In actual fact, I wanted to preserve what I
Sure.
considered probably one of the best curriculums, go to woe, to turn people into professional astrologers. I know that for a fact. I think half the time that people, I looked at the whole thing and I watched students come in and I saw students leave. And I've noticed that over a period of time. And why that tends to happen is that generally life gets in the way. It's not that people don't want to study astrology. It's not that people want to give up on astrology. It's that life gets in the way. You know, sometimes someone goes off and has a baby. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
they lose a job. Sometimes they change jobs. They are in the middle of moving house. And what tends to happen is the general thing from me, I would say, surveying is the right word I'm looking for. Surveying ex-students as well as current students and finding what are their pain points? What do they need to do? And I think what happens with astrology, and this is a really key point, and this is what we're trying to do, is astrology is learned over time. Time is your friend, it's not your enemy. I know that's coming from a Capricorn, but it's your friend. It's not your enemy. You're going to learn more as time progresses. So sometimes when we pause or we have to pause, we never really let go of astrology. I mean, I did the same thing. I went, when I had my first child and I was 30, I basically, didn't drop astrology, but I stopped practicing and doing a lot of stuff that I was doing and went off to work in a normal career, you could say, to make money for family, etc., etc. But it's all brought me back to this point down the track.
Mm-hmm.
So we have times in our lives where things change. The difference is sometimes people are in the process of learning. They might have, we have, as you know, the program of natal studies. That's what NATs are. So the natal studies from 1 through to 7. And once you've done that, you pretty much know everything you need about the natal chart. You also know the astronomical components and how that fits into it. You're also learning things like your traditional astrology side as well as your modern astrology side and the different systems. So these have all been incorporated so that people can go through that and go, wow, I think I know what I want to do. And I hear it with people that have gone through that part of the program. They get to a point and they go, no, I want to concentrate on horary astrology. Oh no, I'm
Mm-hmm.
interested in. I want to do more to do with electional. Oh no, I think I really want to be a psychological astrologer. I want to be a financial. There's different types of astrology, and we've had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that have come through the college and gone off and set up professional practice for different reasons and made it very successful. So
I see you as a connector, Luke.
yeah,
I think that the conversations that I've heard with students and reaching out to students who maybe have dropped for a while because life has happened and trying to help them to get reconnected into ways that will fit their life. It reminds me of like having a advisor at college. Like you're an advisor and a person can call you, they can email you and have one-on-one conversations and explain, their life and it not be, I guess there's something
yeah,
to be said that we all can use these apps on our phones and, you can make reservations and things, but there's also something to be said that you can talk to someone in person and explore like what are my next steps, because sometimes we can get locked into I can't figure this
yeah.
out,
That's
and who do you have to talk astrology to? For those of us that follow, we're listening to podcasts, we're reading things, and the one thing that always lights me up is whenever I'm in a class and people are actually able to talk astrology. It's like it's its own language. It is its own language. And to be able to have that
yep,
dialogue, and to have a what I would call a professional advisor in that field, like where are you going, with this and what are you interested in? And maybe you don't know yet, but definitely the natal studies modules are a good place to begin.
exactly. Well, what you just described is why I said before that time is your friend.
Hmm.
Because during that process, what you've just described is people uncover, they discover. Let's put it in the context of being, and I use this loosely and say, what about if I chose and I went and I became a doctor and I wanted to do medicine? Natal studies is a bit like doing your general practice. You know all the parts and the basis of how medicine works. But when you want to go off and become a horary astrologer, I might want to go and become an endocrinologist, or I want to be a
Mm-hmm.
specialist in a certain area or a certain field. Psychological astrology. Well, I might want to become a psychologist, or I can use
Mm-hmm.
the two together, and we have a lot of people that do that. The thing is, I suppose where I'm at with the college right now is we're trying to create a program or a series of programs to fit into people's daily lives. Also to make it affordable, Jen. So the idea
Mm-hmm.
is that I
It's
know for a fact,
important.
yeah, well, we've got for example, I've got a student at the moment who's in what we call or about to start Nat 3, but they have to step back because they're also studying another course, which is social work. Not that they don't want to, but they're going to step back for a few months. And the idea of that is, they're going, well, I need to get this sorted and I need to sort that out, and then I'm going to come back to my studies. So, what the idea of these programs are is that you've got a community based program now, which means primarily what that is you join the community, which is free to join anyway. But if you
Mm-hmm.
want to join as and pay for the program, you get access to all of the astrology library of there's about over 400 videos of seminars, workshops, and mini courses that have been collated over the last 20 something years with some of the best astrologers across the globe. And we're talking all different topics. So everything from medical astrology right through to, Jyotish astrology to you name it. There's a lot of topics covered. Relationships, spirituality, you name it. So we're talking over 400. It's a bit like your own Netflix for astrology without the commercials. You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't
Right.
have to sit there through the
Well,
commercials.
for
And
the astrology lover, I see that collection, it's kind of reminds me of going shoe shopping. There are so many beautiful
yep,
pairs, women in our shoes or purses or whatever our audience is into. It's like, oh my gosh, there's this one and then there's that one. Oh, wait, there's this other thing I want to watch. And so sometimes I can just be looking at that and I begin a new list, this community
astrology
group.
program. Yeah. So
Okay.
the community astrology program is primarily you're paying I think US 14.95 a month.
Oh, okay.
By doing that, you're also getting access to 20% discount future going forward. So if we've got, I know Elena, for example, is coming up with an advanced astrology course because she did the beginners, she did the intermediate, and and this is a certificate course, and this is part of the specialist program, and she'll be running the advanced. But if you're part of that astrology program, even if it's just the community one, because you're already a professional astrology, all you want to do is go and have a look or get access to content, but you want to get a 20% discount as part of it when you sign up to Elena's
So
course,
that would
then
be a
that's
great
part
way
of it.
to save
Yeah,
money to
it
get
is.
into that certification. And Elena
That's right.
actually has a intensive right now that's coming up
That's the
that
one. Yeah.
yeah, that would be a great savings for.
Yes, exactly. So there's
Okay.
that one. Then there's also what we've decided we'll try to do, and this will be what I consider one of the strong points. So we also have two other programs for astrology education, and one is personal and one is professional. And I'm going to
Okay.
explain what the difference is because people need to know
So
what the difference
community,
is.
personal, and professional. So
Yes,
there's three.
there's three
Okay.
of them. So call them different levels. And the professional and the personal both include everything that's in the community program. So
Okay.
it's all part of it. But if you're in the personal astrology program, the idea of that is what if I want to learn astrology, but I don't necessarily want to go through all of the exams, the deadlines? I don't have time to sit in classes, but I want access to all that content. I want to be able to learn my natal studies in my own pace, in my own time. And with that, we've got quizzes and different forms of tests along the way. So you're learning as you go in a self-paced, you know, self-education course. So it's basically video online that you watch, do the
Mm-hmm.
courses, and at the end of that, you have the option to sit the exam and get qualified. So technically, you get a certificate of completion. So you say, I've been through it, I've got my certificate, I've
Mm-hmm.
literally gone through passed all my quizzes. I've done that for my basic astrology. So if I know nothing about astrology, I can start there. I mean, literally, if all I knew was my star signs or my sun signs that they're really known. But either way, even if that's all I knew, I could join that program, start with the basic astrology, know that I've got a good education. That sets me up then to do my natal studies one, my NAT one, which is the
Okay.
foundations, which takes you a lot into all of the astronomical components that are the building blocks behind it, which a lot of a lot of astrology education out there doesn't go into that detail up front, which is it's learning it properly. It's learning it from the
Hmm.
grounds up, and that's what it's about. Where we are at the moment, Enid Newberg, who is helping me with setting up the next version, which will be the Natal Studies 2 in that self-learning version. We're in the process of building it. So we've started the program. That's why it's sort of pre-launch. But at the end of the day, you could start now, you could get into it, and I can guarantee you, as you're starting to do them, because they do take a little bit of time, we're talking 10 weeks and
Sure.
12 weeks, but you can do them in your own pace. You could do it all in one weekend if you wanted to have a binge watch and think you're going to learn it all. I'm just telling you, time's your friend. And you could do it that way. But the idea is, therefore, you can get your qualifications, or I should say, completion, and then if you feel comfortable, you can actually go and sit the exam. And how that works is you literally apply for the exam. You get sent the exam. It gets workflowed out to one of the examiners. And you get, I think, 48 hours to complete the exam, the same as you would if you were
Okay.
sitting at the college. But the other reason this might be the case, if you've been educated elsewhere, let's say you've gone to another astrology college somewhere, but you want to have your recognition or you want to earn and have the diploma, you could come in, you could join the personal program, go through the NAT modules, go, well, I think I know these, sit each exam along the way, which if you're doing the personal one, the exams are a per exam cost and you pay for those, but you
So
slowly get
that's almost like a credit for
accreditation.
prior learning
That's
program. So
exactly
you
right.
take your prior
Yep.
learning, like when I came to the school, I had had 2 years at a different school, and COVID had happened and it shut things down, and I never got to finish.
Yes,
So how do I move forward with that? And
that's right.
so you're saying through the personal program that if I already know the planets, I know the houses, I know
You can
basic,
start
the
those. Yep,
basics, then I could start that at my own pace and work my way through it through the online version. And then when I'm ready, I could set for the exam. And then then there's another though, but
that's
this
right.
could be
I'll
a
get to
place
that
to
one in a
start.
sec.
Okay.
Because the idea is, I mean, seriously, it's yes, I think we've costed the program or the personal program at about $50 a month US,
Okay.
49.95.
Oh,
Now,
that's awesome.
the reason for that is where you're going to get a university level education for $600 a year. Yeah, not. But
No.
that's not giving you, that'll give you access to the community, it'll give you access to some, monthly what I would call Q&A sessions about each of the courses that are run or the NAT sessions that are there. And that's what we're in the process of setting up. When I say that, this is available now in its pre-launch, but we'll have more activity, more stuff coming on into say, probably by about April. I think we're looking to probably launch the official launch around April this year in 2026. So
Okay.
that's the goal. Whether that changes, I'm not sure, but that's what I'm working towards. Now, then you mentioned the third program, which is the professional program. And here we are, we jump up to $149 monthly payment, or you can pay annually and save, I think, 2 months of the payment. And when you look at it,
Oh, okay.
you're talking about a professional education, a university education in your own pace, literally for about $1,500 a year. Like you're not going to get that anywhere. So we're trying to make it affordable. How it works is that you enroll in that, you have access to all of those pre-recorded NAT versions to go through at your own pace.
Hmm.
So even between semesters, you can do that or at the same time. But
Oh,
you also
wow.
have access to the live classes. Basically, what you would do is each semester you would enroll in a new class with a new teacher and you work through it. Now, the idea of it is this. I've got some students now looking to do that, and one of them said, look, I really may not be able to commit to my whole class for this particular semester. And so the idea of it is this, to take the pressure off. Because really at the end of the day, when we say learning and getting your education at your own pace, What I mean by that's this. Let's say, this is a hypothetical, but let's say that particular student started and said to the teacher, look, I don't have time at the moment to do all of my homework, so I'm going to hand in as many as I can, and I don't want to sit the exam at the end of the semester. I'm just not going to do it. I don't have time, but I want to still go to the classes where I can and get
Okay.
access to the recordings. And this could be a Nat 2 or a Nat 3 or whatever. So life's got in the way of this particular person.
Mm-hmm.
They're still got access to everything. They're doing their own bit. They have access to the recordings. They can come to class when they feel like it. They can go through it. Just what we're asking here in this case is just, you just prepare the teacher so they know so they don't have to be sitting there going, where's your homework? So at the end of the day, you get to the end of that semester, and if you still feel you're competent enough, you still could always sit the exam. However, you could then say, okay, thanks very much. Wait till the next semester and re-enroll in the same course, knowing that you're already sort of got a bit of a background on it, know how it's starting to work. It's because my issue might be time. I just can't
Sure.
get it all done in one go. So I prefer to go, you know what, I'll do the homeworks for these, but I know by the time I've done 2 semesters of the same course,
That I'll have it. I'll
I've
get
got
it.
it.
And sometimes I would say from experience, I've been what I feel like as a professional student in lots of areas, Sagittarius rising in the ninth house, a ninth house sun, lots of schooling. And sometimes it's the second or third time when you really get it, when it really like comes to you, you're like, oh, okay, now it's clicking. Now and
That's right.
especially when you get into like astronomy, the pieces that are maybe a little more difficult when you're doing calculations that I've not been through. What is that, like Nat 6 or
Seven.
Nat
The
7
six and seven.
further?
So six is the astronomy,
Yeah.
and that seven's
Okay.
literally calculations where you're sitting down and you're doing a chart like I had to by hand.
Right. Right. And the thing is that I just love, is the personal experience. The teachers have been through this program. They've graduated, but they've got so many years of experience
Yes,
under their belt,
absolutely.
and it's real people that you're talking to. They've been there. They've had life happen to them too, and this has been their passion that they've pursued over years and years and years. And I think that as you start to grow in your astrology practice, you realize this is something that you kind of want to keep with you, and it's no matter what goes on, it's still kind of there, and you can kind of come and go from it as you need to.
That's
And
exactly
so it
right.
sounds like you found a way that you can do that and still stay within a community and still getting to do the astrology talk,
That's it.
having the language around you all the time.
Yeah. That's the whole idea. So you can pop in and out as you like. So the community we've been Friday night, which is Saturday and on our side of the planet, Saturday mornings. We run our Astrodice sessions with Courtney and Barbie. We
Mm-hmm.
also do the chart delineation practice, which is a free session that everyone can just jump into. And what I've also worked out, Jen, and probably when I set some of the stuff up, I made a mistake along the way, but I do want to introduce that I'm now going to start putting Spanish subtitles on everything
Oh, okay. And why is
because
that?
because we've had people who are going through our Spanish program who have come along, joined the community, but most of the videos they say everyone's speaking English and they don't really understand. But if we had
Okay.
subtitles on everything, we could also do that. So I'm going to work towards the idea of doing the same, if not something a little bit different, with all of the astrology library. So everything is spoken in English, but there's going to be a way to be able to slowly bring into it. And when I did all that, and I did all the all the all of the reprogramming of everything, I didn't put subtitles in everything. And if I'd done, we'd probably already have a community program where at least if you speak Spanish, you could come along and watch everything in subtitles. So
But are you saying this is the pilot program? The Spanish is maybe the pilot program for other languages in the
I
future?
would. That's what I'm thinking. I think with technology the way it is now and the way we've got access to so many things, you'll find it funny. And I'm going to say this for everyone out there who is Spanish, who'll probably be watching this with subtitles. You will find that managed to find ways in which to create videos on our Spanish website, which will be sort of connected in. And those
Okay.
videos have my voice speaking Spanish, but I can't speak
I've
Spanish.
heard them. They're quite funny.
So, hopefully the pronunciation is good, but knowing Luke, maybe it's not. Because the brain goes ahead of the mouth sometimes. And but we're going to give that a go, and I think that will be part of the program. I'd like to open that up and make it more available to different cultures, and ideally be able to create various versions of the videos that we do. So from now on, all of the astro dice, all of the chart delineation practice, when we put those up in the community, I'm going to add in Spanish subtitles to them so people can
Ah,
watch them as well and become
super
part of it.
cool.
Yeah. So
That's amazing. I love it.
the idea of it is to try and make it so that we can incorporate, multiple languages. And I think with technology the way it is, I'll find a way soon where I can have the videos play back in different languages. I'll let you on a little secret. A number of years ago, probably back in about 2012, 13, something like that. Prior to getting involved here, I was involved building a video distribution platform for real estate. And I came up with the concept, and we used some softwares and built it so that we actually had video. It was an automatic video creation service. Now it's sort of gone by the wayside because there was a whole dispute that came out of all of this. But at the end of the day, what it did was it would take what we call an XML feed, which is photos and text and everything, bring them in, grab the text, grab the photos, turn them into a slideshow, and then read it back in multiple languages in a video form and
Oh,
automatically
wow.
create it. But what I used to love this too, but I used to laugh. You had multiple languages, and we even had Indian English. So,
Oh, wow.
so in other words, it's speaking English, but with an Indian accent. It was hilarious.
Okay.
But the problem was, and where it's sort of technology back then, it was still a little bit computerized. Inflection wasn't
Hmm.
quite there. It said the words, but it didn't sound like we're talking where we're just having a conversation. It wasn't conversational. So people did and didn't like it in some respects, but it was something that I've been involved in that sort of technology stuff for a long time. So for me, stepping into this role, I want to have more time to do the astrology side myself. I have run a workshop on activities involving risk. So, for those who do know me from an astrology point of view, I've come from the idea, going way back to the 90s, I looked for something because I'll put it this way, I know I'm going back and forwards. I wanted to find out if the planets had a physical effect on the outcome of events. And what I know now is yes, they do. How they do it is probably the effect, the physical effect is not only is it energetic, but I think it's involved in subatomic particles. So we go right back to neutrinos and other things. I'm not going to go into the detail now. And the redirection of that and those particles by planetary bodies. So what I needed to find out was an event that I knew was going to happen in advance, that
Hmm.
was of short duration, that had an outcome. So where, when, short duration, outcome. Couldn't think of anything except for one thing: horse racing. That's literally how it came about. So you're talking about a
Okay.
horse race because generally you know what time they're going to run and where they're happening. They're
Hmm.
short duration, they have an outcome. So we wanted to find out, do the planets have a physical effect? How do we determine that? In a planet in a significant position or in a more powerful position, does it mean that if it is in that position, then theoretically it should be reflected in the name of the horse that won the race,
Okay.
and it does. So
And it does.
back then, when I got 10 winners in a row, I thought, God, I've got this sorted. Yay! Then I put a whole heap of money on the next one, and it's like, it loses. And I go, what the hell? So the point of it is that set me on that journey, and that's part of what my workshop has been about, but also timing of things. So, in other words, when's a good time to, send emails? You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you're going trying to get a good response, it's a bit like picking your horary time, but you're also using some basic stuff during the day. If I'm going to go and put money in a slot machine, what am I looking for? When's a good time? When are my chances going to be more increased? That's what my workshop's been on. So I've been trying to do that as well, as well as run the college. So it's been a very busy time trying to get everything up and established and running. Nearly 30 years of development. So we operate our school live sessions or information or where the stuff is held out of Moodle. We use Zoom and or sometimes GoToMeeting to hold the live classes.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've gone to a new website that incorporates, a shopping cart, a shopping area, a learning environment, as well as a community. So, and as well as the website. So the pulling them all from what we call the .org website, which is the older WordPress site that was getting a little bit tired, and bringing them all across.
Astrocollege.org, which
Yeah,
is
.org.
traditionally where people have found the IA
That's right.
before.
And I think there's still a lot, to be quite honest, I think the astrocollege.org being there for so long that when you're doing searches with Google, it'll still take you there over the .com.
So there's also an astrocollege.com, which has been around.
When you go in there and you realize, people don't realize, I suppose, but there's over 200 pages in that website. And when we talk about Astrocollege, the differentiator to me, I thought, do I use the two names? Do we just make it International Academy of Astrology? Do we use Astrocollege? What are they? What's the difference? I think Astrocollege will be the community learning and the personal learning program, where you come along and you learn your Astrocollege. But if you want professional education, diploma, as well as basically university level education, and
Sure, when you're ready to
the
get
classes
serious, you
ready to get
come.
serious,
Hmm.
that's the International Academy of Astrology. So they're
Okay, that
basically
makes
hand in
sense.
hand and they work together. And
And there's some program you were telling me about too, by the way. I
I
think
know what you're
maybe
about
you've
to say.
forgotten. What is this? What is this earn as you learn
Okay.
you were talking
Well,
about?
it's, as I said, it's conceptual, but I think it will work. So, where do I start with this one? Okay. So, if you're a student and you're going through the professional program and you get through NATs 1 to 5, after
Okay.
when you I'm not sure if it's when you start Nat 5 or when you finish Nat 5. Nat 5 and afterwards, I think. What we're going to do is allow you to be what we call, it's a bit like a student clinic. So we will therefore take your details and we'll plug them in, and we're setting all that up in the background. This is where what I mean by the website's a bit of a monolith.
So
So this,
that's one perk of the new website is it will
yeah,
be able to have this reading clinic.
yeah. So basically, it will be, well, we'll still have the Zoom links and other things that have to operate. But what we'll
Mm-hmm.
be able to do is people in the public will be able to come along and purchase astrology consultations about their
Mm-hmm.
chart or learn about them with students. Now, this will be an area, a bit like you go to a student massage clinic. You turn up,
Mm-hmm.
you pay a little bit less, and you get a
Or
student
a dental clinic
or a
or
dental clinic or that type of thing
or
where
hair salon. Sometimes this hair
yeah,
companies will do that. Yeah, yeah.
that's right. So if you're an aspiring astrologer learning, you start having that face to face. Now, there's a disclaimer with all of this. The person's advice may not be 100% correct. Sometimes their wording might not be 100%, but we can't hold that against them. There'll be a disclaimer saying what's said to you. Don't take it as gospel because this person's still learning. This person's,
Sure.
even if you go to some of the best astrologers in the world, you can't take everything they say as gospel. you know,
But the advantage of this is one that the new astrologer gets some
that's
experience
exactly
being
right.
able and learning how to give a reading,
Yep,
and they get to earn as they learn, I assume, with the
yep,
name.
that's right. So, and what it would be is that people can enter this program by choice if they wanted to, and therefore, as we get more people coming in to the college or to the website, they'll be able to not only, well, there'll also be the option to book a consultation or have your chart rectified. So if you don't know your time of birth, you can't get the records, the hospital records were
Mm-hmm.
burnt out, burnt down, sold
Mm-hmm.
off, who knows what happened to them. They're gone and you can't get your birth time, but you've, got an indication. You can book a consultation. It could be someone like Diane Trimbath who will do the rectification for you. And that's usually a two-step process. But there'll be this area where you can go in and book consultation. And then you could say the sub area is student consultations. And they'll obviously
Okay.
be, and the idea will be it literally is, there's no guarantee to the student they'll get lots and lots of consultations because it's totally up to the public whether they want to pay for them. But the point is they're there, and we'll do some advertising and encourage people to come along and help the students get some understanding and get some experience because that's half the issue,
Sure.
sitting
Sure.
down
A
and
building of confidence as
yes,
students are learning. I think that is a something that as I'm talking to people, how do I know I'm ready yet?
yeah,
Like, I don't know if I know enough. And you talk to them sometimes the depth and the breadth of what they've studied, and it's like, oh, you're ready. You just don't realize that you can.
yes,
So
yeah,
this could help to encourage a student and to become stronger at speaking, at learning, some of the different tips and tricks. And I'm sure along the way, there'll probably be some education along with that, how to do a reading, all the
yeah.
pre-steps. And I would assume that with your advising in so many areas at the college, that it would include that program as well, that you're going to be very hands-on there and helping to grow people into readers.
What we'll do initially is we'll have, we have, as I said, this has not been finalized, and it will be a little bit of
Sure.
trial and error. There's no question because this has never been done before. And the idea of it is I know for a fact that when I was a 16, 17, 18-year-old who'd been doing astrology for two and a half, going and say 18, 19. So I remember one particular person, can't remember their name, but he was a school principal. And he came to me as a consultation about a chart reading. And I remember it clearly because he had Pluto crossing the midheaven at the time. And I told him, you're going to go through a major shift and a change of career. It's just no question. It's like what you've been doing is going to change. You're going to go through this
Hmm.
because there was other factors in his chart that were indicating the same. And he was probably in his mid to late 40s. And I think I was about 20. And I don't, how do I put it? I was just being me. I was just saying what I see. Now he was going, oh my God, I wish I knew what you knew at your age. Oh my God, like that's such an insight into how things work and all that sort of stuff. And I didn't think twice about it. But the point is, by that stage, I'd been doing consultation after consultation after consultation.
Hmm.
I wasn't the green person going, hang on, oh, wait on, you've got, over the chart. Because I didn't have formal training at that stage. I had none. So when I went and I started at the Chiron School of Astrology with Chris, it was really about filling in the gaps, filling in the gaps. And I find that one of the things I love is the curriculum is so good that you could be off learning astrology in areas, and we have people come in who have learned in lots of stuff along the way, and then they sit there and they do Nat 1 and they go, huh? I didn't know any of this. I haven't been taught that. And we go, well, you've missed out on
Wow.
the foundations. You've just missed out on the foundations. You need to know this part. But often the stuff online and the stuff I think maybe what it is a lot of people are doing self-learning programs and
Hmm.
which are great and they're really, really good, but you still don't have that opportunity to discuss something with someone to find out whether you're on the right track, whether how you're
Right.
seeing that it interprets is correct or not. Just by people coming along to our chart delineation, sessions, I've heard people come back to me later and say, what I love about it is I just hear a bunch of astrologers talk about what they see in a chart, And that gives me more
Mm-hmm.
insight in 10 minutes than I did reading anything, because
Right.
it takes me
Right.
straight to the point and they're explaining why. And
Right.
so that's why I want the community to be that area where anyone can come. And I think what we're going to be setting up is a college that you can start. Even if you've just got a general interest in astrology, you're going to come here and you're going to get decent astrology education. Even if you just came along and did the basic astrology course and left, the basic astrology course is going to teach you how to read a chart, how to understand it, what it all does, and be able to use it in your
Mm-hmm.
personal life and be able to look at your kids' charts
Sure.
and go, oh, I can see what's there. And then if I
Sure.
wanted to take it further, I can. And that's what I mean by the personal astrology. I don't want to be a professional astrologer. I'm a psychologist, or I'm a counselor, or I'm a social worker. But I want to understand another level of people I consult,
Clients.
my
Right.
clients.
Right.
So I come in and I do the personal astrology program, and over time, I learn how astrology may influence. I don't necessarily want to have my formal qualifications to be a professional, but I do want to know that if I'm learning something about astrology, that it's actually the same as the professional program. I'm not missing out on anything. I'm actually learning the basics correctly, not
Right.
something that I'm not picking on people, but not something that's just my local, you know, TikTok stars just throwing a few things out with some funny cat videos. And
Yeah.
now I
Right.
understand. Now I understand how Cancerians work. Look at that cat; it's just not quite the same. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can imagine
Oh,
my
we could
local
go on and
psychologist
on.
there
I
going,
haven't it.
I can see you're just like that cat video. Yeah. No, I can't
Uh-huh.
imagine that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and so, everything has its place, and there's a place for that when someone is first trying to dip their toe in. But I think our community is a really good next step for someone wanting to come in and get into real content from
Yes. Yeah.
serious, professional, world renowned astrologers, people who are out there who are, the big names out in the field right now. And there are also videos and workshops, what I call the vintage content of people
Yep.
who have passed on who were amazing,
Yes.
astrologers. And so to be able to have that still, it feels, it almost, I get the feeling of like, Harry Potter and,
Yes. Dumbledore.
the movie film set, yeah, and the halls, like the library halls, the annuals of time. In some ways, I feel like that with this school, there's that backdrop, like
Well,
there's the
that's what
halls
that
of those
whole
who have walked before. You
yeah,
know.
agreed. And that's what that whole community astrology program is, and access to all that vault of files. As I
Yeah.
said, Netflix without the ads. So astrology Netflix without the ads. And
Well,
you
I think we have learned a lot here. So there are three levels. It's the personal. I want to make sure I've got that right.
community,
There's
personal, and professional.
community, personal, and professional, and you're planning on doing an official relaunch of the school and with
Yes.
these programs in April. But nothing has really changed other than we're
Nothing's
spicing up the
changed.
website and gravitating to one that has more function to it, to where you can actually make a purchase online and it'll take you to a cart and it functions like how people use their phones today.
Yes. So the other thing is, Jen, for those who just want to come along and study and just go, okay, I'm signing up for a course, I'll pay my term fee for that particular course. Bang, they can do that. And so if you wanted to come
Okay.
along and just do the basic astrology course, and that's all you
Okay.
wanted to do, you can just buy that as well, that's straight out of the cart. I'm not stopping people making their choices how they want to do it.
Okay.
The idea of it is, when I say make it affordable, I want these programs to be seen as, look, I can pay this by the month. I can even pay it annually and get a saving if I wanted to. I've actually had some people do that just recently. But what it comes down to is you've got access to everything, and you can just start doing things at your own time. If you join the professional program, it's literally a matter. The only difference is you say, okay, what do I want to start with? I mean, say you came in and wanted to do it and you hadn't done any astrology. Well, the first thing you're going to do is I can go and sit in with the basic course if I wanted to, and I can do that and have
Sure.
access to the teacher as well as being able to do all the online stuff. Or I could jump in
Hmm.
and go, I'm going to do the basic course and Nat 1 by itself here, but I might still jump in with Nat 1 and be with the teacher and do the exams through that and start moving along. So you've got choice. That's the whole
Okay.
idea. And I also,
Okay.
at the end of the day, I also wouldn't, I don't mind, and it's up to them. But let's just say, for example, I wanted to fast track my astrology education. And I jump in and I go, you know what? This is going to be full time for me. I'm going to do two Nats, Nat 1 and Nat 2 together, if that's what I wanted to do. I'll just use as an example.
Okay.
Or basic and Nat 1, and I can do both of them in the same semester.
Okay.
Good luck, because you're going to have a lot of work, a lot of homework, and But the point is, because it is, it's quite look. This is a university level program, so you're talking about the fact, and so if you wanted to do it seriously, you can, and you can fast track it a little bit, but just be prepared. There's going to be a lot of work to fast track it. It's designed to be done semester upon semester and keep, and live with your life so you can still work and study on the side.
But say you tried to do that. That would be just like me to say, oh, I can do all of these things. And I sign up for both of them. And then I start into the homework and then I am flailing.
Yeah,
Then I could back off, couldn't I? If
you
I
could.
did that. And
You
and
could.
then I could just say, okay, let me just focus on that one. So maybe I'll visit Nat 2, but then I'll take Nat 2 again next semester. And
That's
that's
right.
okay. It's
Yep.
okay that visiting. So this really gives a lot of options for students so
It
they
does.
can do things just like how they've always been done and sign up class by class, or they can go with this one of these education levels depending upon, how they want uh, to engage with the content and with the school and with the community and the videos. I mean, there's just so much here.
Yes.
It kind of it can be a little overwhelming. So maybe we have to do some more of these videos where you describe some of
We
the
may have to.
components.
We may have to. But look, if anyone's
But
got any
hopefully,
questions, they can always. I mean, look, I still use my personal Gmail email, and that's why when you said people get calls from me, I mean, we got some students now simply because I'm building the website, and I go in there and I look at the people, and I see that someone's been in the shopping cart and they've got out of the shopping cart, and I go, why would you do that? So I emailed them. Hi, can I help? What's the story? Only to find things like, oh, I was going to pay for this, but PayPal didn't work for me because the pay by three or pay by four or something wasn't working. And then I look at it and I go, that's because it's not going to work for that, et cetera, et cetera. Would you like to do something where we, help you, with your study? And they went, yeah. So I've got different people paying different programs, you could say. So what came from that was a lot of people are going, oh, it's a big ask sometimes, especially in Australia, or
mm-hmm.
even in any other country, New Zealand, or let's just say any of the Asian countries, where buying something in US dollars is like, our little Aussie peso doesn't stand up very well. So, you're paying for a semester and you're paying an extra 30%, you could say, on top of it, or 33%,
Got it.
or
Got it.
50% nearly, I think, sometimes for us. And you go, well, that's a lot of money just to come out of a, one term or one semester's course that I'm committed
Sure.
to. So people, making that commitment's a bit harder. If I just paying by the month, all of a sudden that's cheaper
May
over the same semester area, but it gives me options and I've got access to everything else. So if I did take off a semester and I'm only just paying my monthly fee, I can still enroll in the next course for the next semester and just get the recordings if I wanted to. So,
mm-hmm.
I've got different ways of being able to do the same thing. And it just makes it more, I can budget for it. That's the idea of it. I'm thinking, because
Mm-hmm.
most people drop out of their astrology studies simply because life gets in the way, you know,
Sure.
and so we can't help that. So I'm just trying to make it affordable at the same time. effective, and flexible in its education. But knowing the most important thing is you're getting an actual professional education. The curriculum, the standards, the standard of teaching, the standard of work, it is brilliant. That's the reason I took on the school. When I investigated, I got, you know what, this has to be preserved and this has to be made available to more people because astrology is becoming a much more sought after area of life. You know,
Hmm.
call it,
The market is saturated.
yeah.
It's saturated with all kinds of things, including AI coming in and,
Well, that's
people
another. That's
using AI as a
we might
tool.
touch on AI for a second. AI is a very interesting tool, and astrologically, it will still be a very interesting tool, but it's not
Uh-huh.
going to replace an astrologer. It just isn't going to do it. And I
Right.
say it in regards to the fact that one major thing, it doesn't work with intuition and it doesn't have sensitivity. And it usually needs to be fed information in such a way that it gives a direct answer to that particular thing. It doesn't see the nuances between the blending of it. It doesn't see
Right.
how it's going to unfold. It just gives you the black and the white of what it thinks. Remember, AI scoots off and finds as much information as it can on the internet that's available, and then compiles that into what it wants as its version. So you could turn around and say, I want to describe this particular planet in the form of Stephen Arroyo. So we'll go off and find all the data that's written about that and then read it back to you in a way that sounds like he's telling you. Now that's all great, but that's not going to be what is going to be of benefit for you, your family, your friends, or people that want a professional consultation to understand how it's really working for them. It may get better over time, but at the moment it's horrendous. So, and I
Hmm.
don't see it, it's a great tool, but that's probably the best way. If I can still use it occasionally. How do you think I got my Spanish speaking Luke Bailey?
Well, I
It's a
do
great
need,
tool.
can we backtrack for just a second? Because you had said before we started talking about AI, that people could email you, but we need to know where to email you, Luke.
Oh,
How
it's
can people
my
reach you?
my personal email is Luke Bailey, but it's Bayley 25 at gmail.com. 25 because I'm born on the 25th of a month. Yeah.
Okay.
Christmas Day for those who don't know. So, but that's just my personal one. I'm still in the process of organizing proper email addresses once we transfer across to .com. But at the moment, a lot of the email
Okay.
addresses are still coming via the .org site. That's another thing that's sort of all got to transition and work out. So, and I'm not the IT expert. I'm just doing it all by myself in the first place. But I'm getting there. Yeah,
that's
we're getting there.
that's the human perspective here, though, that we get to enjoy. And people who have watched the IA over time and seen the changes and see the growing pains, it's just like any other business. And I think it's so funny and appropriate that the school is in its 30th year. It's having its own Saturn return of being
Yeah,
restructured and,
that's right.
going through changes and trying to, um, what it sounds like, become more accessible to
That's right.
everyone, so that it's
So
not just this thing that we hope to get to do one day, when we can afford it, when we have time, when life doesn't get in the way, but we actually can start dunking our toe in now and working with it and working through it as best
that's
that we
right.
can, whether it's through the community level or working our way up to the professional program.
That's right. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, is there
Well,
anything else
thank
we
you,
needed to
Luke.
cover? I think we've had a good chat today.
I think we have. Well, we'll just do another video. Hopefully, this helps some of the audience to understand a little bit more about what it is, how to access it, about you, Luke, because I know some people have wondered, who is this Luke Bailey, as things have changed. So
Yeah,
hopefully, people feel a little more uh, comfortable and know how to reach out to you, and that you are more than happy and willing to be that advisor to people and helping to find, their way into the astrology if that's what
Yeah.
they desire. They want to
Yeah, that'd be
continue their
great. And as I
studies.
said, anyone can email me directly. I've had an ex-student email this morning saying, I've been speaking to Janet, who's teaching our Nat 4, and I want to get back into that class. And how do I do that? So, that was part of what I've shared, and we'll see how we go. But it's lovely to, to help people on their astrological journey, because one thing I do know, and I'll leave you with this thought, is that as soon as someone opens up the Pandora's box of getting into astrology, the knowledge of it and the desire to know more never leaves you. It just doesn't. So it's just one of those things that keeps happening. Full stop.
Awesome. Thank you, Luke.
All
Thank you
right.
for
Thank you,
taking the
Jen.
time.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
the.
for helping to answer some of the questions, and for uh, uh, what I say, baby or beginner, whatever, intermediate astrologers like I, to how can we continue our studies. I think it's important to know what our options are. And so now we know what we can do, what's coming up. And it's going to be a
Awesome.
big spring in April if we
Yes. Well, for us, it'll
things
be our autumn.
continue.
So there you go, or fall. I
That
can't
whole
wait for them
international
because it's too damn hot
perspective,
here.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You can't wait for spring for
Yeah.
the opposite reason. Yeah, you want a bit of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We would wish for that here in Ohio, where we currently have more than 12 inches of snow on the ground. So yes,
yeah.
we'll take a little Australian,
Well, where I
some.
am, where I am in Australia, we're barely that lucky to have grass on the ground, so it's all burnt off. Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Luke.
All
Take
right. Take
care.
care. Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.